Welcome back to another episode of Riverhawk Roundtable. We took a short break to focus on celebrations for the class of 2025, but we are back and excited to bring you some very interesting guests throughout our summer episodes. We are thrilled to be joined in this episode by Marlène Boissonnault from the class of 2015. From her days at RNS to the honor of representing Team Canada, tending goal at Cornell University, playing professionally with the Montreal Victoire of the PWHL, and most recently, capturing the 2025 Walter Cup with the Minnesota Frost, Marlène has carved out an inspiring path in the world of women's hockey. In this episode, she reflects on her time at RNS and how it helped shape her both on and off the ice, preparing for the opportunities and challenges ahead. You won't want to miss this one. Let's dive in. All right. Well, today I'm so excited to be reconnecting with a player that I have had the distinct pleasure of coaching many, many years ago, Marlène Boissonnault from the class of 2015, celebrating her 10-year reunion this year, fresh off a Walter Cup victory with the Minnesota Frost. Marlène, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's amazing to be able to kind of stay in touch.
If it's okay with you, I'd like to go back to the beginning and kind of work our way forward to present day. So you arrived in 2012. What was that journey like for you? What brought you to RNS? You're from a little town in New Brunswick, Dundee. So what was kind of your experience like in that recruitment process? How did you find RNS? And what ultimately led you to decide that RNS was the right place for you to develop as a person and as a student?
Yeah, I mean, my journey is honestly very similar to a lot of athletes out there. I like to think that, I didn't have anything special about my journey outside of being lucky every now and again. But ultimately, it started in Dundee, New Brunswick, in a small minor hockey community. It was me and a couple girls playing on boys' teams. But yeah, I started lacing up the skates around 5, and around 7. On that boys' team, there was the hybrid goaltending kind of being thrown around where players could try to be a goalie and share the gear. And being one of the only girls, to this day, I didn't remember this story. And my mom actually told it to me recently when I was doing some interviews. And she said, since I was one of the girls, I was a little bit shy and didn't want to step in and say, I want to be the goalie. So all the guys got to try it in that season. And then heading into the off season, I hadn't gotten my chance yet. But we were going into a family hockey camp that June or July. And my mom had said, like, what position do you want to play in June or July? Like, would you want to try that goaltending position? And I said, absolutely. Like, that's my shot. And honestly, I never looked back since. My parents got me whatever secondhand gear just to, not get too hurt by pucks. And I learned how to be a goalie at that camp in Quebec and never looked back since. And then honestly, from there on out, I just was a goalie, having the best time of my life. And I really wanted to be a goalie too because my dad was a goalie and one of my brothers were a goalie as well. So I kind of played the jealousy game, wanting to be a goalie as well. Worked out for me and I never looked back. And then honestly, after that, it was just year after year. I got really lucky to get called up by Hockey New Brunswick after playing for in-season teams with Dalhousie Minor Hockey and then the V-Reds out of Fredericton in the off-seasons for spring hockey. Got picked up by Hockey New Brunswick. Got very fortunate to make the team out of the gate in my U15 year. And then I think I played for Hockey New Brunswick for about 5 or 6 consecutive years before moving on to the national program. But in the midst of that, I had gotten a call outside of my grade 8 year going into grade 9 from RNS. And they had kind of reached out to me because back then the coach of the Hockey New Brunswick was Mariel Hannum. And she was coaching at RNS. And then she had reached out to my parents saying that she'd love to have me be the goaltender for Rothesay. And my parents, obviously, I grew up, at this point, I'm strictly French, right? I grew up French and to jump and to go to an English program was very, very intimidating. And my mom, being kind of the protector that she is, said, let's wait another year, give her a chance to kind of get acclimated to high school and see how that goes. And obviously, RNS was more than willing to do that. And the following year, they call again and they ask again, like, would it be an option for grade 10? And at this point, my mom had some time obviously to think about it. So her bargain was she'll go if ever her brother can go with her so that I wouldn't be hours away from home by myself. And so My brother, who was also a phenomenal athlete, went and played for the boys team at RNS. And yeah, I played at RNS from grade 10 through 12. Had 3 amazing years, and I got very lucky to be able to showcase with the team. The team made an amazing job at showcasing us all over North America, really, especially on the East Coast where you have the big showcases. And I was very fortunate enough to get seen. And my recruitment process for my grade 10, grade 11 year was very foreign to me. I had never heard what an Ivy League school was. To this day, like I had only ever dreamt of playing for McGill because that was, to me, that was very far, right? Like Quebec was extremely far. And yeah, I was very fortunate where we had amazing advisors at RNS. You remember it too. And it was an amazing process that we kind of went through, I think, as a staff with myself, because I was very obviously overwhelmed by it all. I was very fortunate to get a lot of contacts. And yeah, we combed through it and we found a school that was a really good fit for me. And I came out of RNS very, very blessed because I had the IB program backing me up. So I was able to go to an Ivy League school and get that obviously very well recognized, and I was able to have good grades, and my time management skills definitely were worked on at school. But heading into Cornell, obviously afterwards was a pretty smooth transition given the backpack that Arnes had given me, and then there on out, it's been a fight at the pro level, which has been amazing.
So I want to touch on a couple things that you talked about is, you leave home at grade 10, you've got your brother with you, but there's a whole bunch of new things that you're experiencing too. And there's certainly lots of student athletes at our school right now who are in a similar boat to you and have similar goals to what you had at the time.
Yeah.
What is it that you think that you did and the opportunities that you took advantage of here at RNS that helped you develop as a student, as a person, and as an athlete to be able to get to that next level? So, if you imagine current students at our school or students arriving in grade 10, what is it that you think you did here that really helped you build those time management skills or be prepared for those opportunities that were coming for you at the next level?
I think honestly is to make sure that I always was open to doing as many activities as I can, not because that would take more time off my plate, but because I was able to build really strong relationships, not only with my teammates, because you're almost guaranteed a friendship with an entire team, right? But I think to this day, some of my greatest friends are definitely my teammates, but also I'm very lucky to have some of my greatest friends to this day that are not girls that were playing sports at Cornell or sorry, at RNS. And so I was able to create amazing relationships where, when times got tough and when English was difficult, especially when I would get tired, things like that, I had people that were able to help me out. And to be honest with you, a lot of those friends outside of hockey were people that were also ESL, right? To this day, I have one of my best friends, Marius, where she's from Mexico, right? So she had the ESL challenge as well, but I also got very lucky where when I went to RNS, there were a lot of people that I knew. Obviously, my brother, but then funny enough, MJ Peltier, who was also a phenomenal athlete to come out of RNS, was in that team in Dalhousie when I was a kid, right? So her and I grew up together. So whenever we made that transition, obviously we made it together because we were both part of the national or the provincial program and eventually the national program. So obviously that transition was pretty nice because you have friends, right? Obviously some that were already my friends, but people that I also made really good friends with. And I think that was honestly the single-handedly, the single thing that really kind of made my time there a little bit easier because definitely the challenge was being ESL. Like I know that a lot of people to this day will tell me like, how did you even manage it? Math and things like that were fine, and French class was great. But math is a universal language, so that was fine. But to me, the most difficult class was English because it came out of the bat, grade 10, IB was coming down the pipeline, but we had Shakespeare to work with, right? So I come to RNS, barely speak English, and I got to learn Shakespeare. That was difficult. But the staff at RNS is incredible. I mean, you guys experience it every day. It's above and beyond work. It never really felt like I was away from home for me because I had my brother there. But I think even if I didn't have my brother there, you really build a strong family. And to be honest with you, all the athletes there are very tight knit, I think, regardless of what sport you play. And we were always busy, right? We had practice. For me, when I was there, we had practice at 6 a.m., 6:30, whenever that was. And we were getting dressed in a really cold trailer for if you want to date us here, but it was an amazing time. And then after school, you had obviously your after school programs that you were a part of. So we had all sorts of things to keep us busy, and there's an amazing structure there, right? So I think that's one of those things that I definitely missed when I went to Cornell is you don't have that structure
Mm.
once you come out of RNS, but at RNS you're really cushioned by it, and it's really good. I mean, at the end of the day, you have your times to study, you have your times to have fun, and then you have your times in between, and yeah, and amazing food. I mean, those cookies, I still dream about them to this day.
Do you have any memories that kind of stand out, or moments or traditions from your time at RNS that when you look back, obviously it was 10 years ago now, but when you think back on that time, are there moments or experiences that stand out to you as things that you kind of hold dear to your heart?
Obviously, all our hockey stories are the best. I mean, from travels to those early morning trailer dressing, and then everything between. Gracie Graham came in the picture at one point. She was a hoot. Changing gears, me going player and her going goalie, things like that obviously are all the core memories. But to be honest with you, just from the RNS perspective, outside of being an athlete, there was so many activities that are given by the program or by RNS that you were able to do. And all those mall runs, all things like that were so special to me because you get to go with friends and you get to obviously have your little escape from the routine if ever that's overwhelming. But if I think about those activities, I remember one in particular. I don't remember his name, but he played on the boys hockey team and he would play guitar. And one night we had like I don't know if it was a bonfire or what it was, but I remember so many people just getting together and just hearing him kind of play guitar. And he was probably grade 11, grade 12. And I think those are the things that really stick with you because you're just there having a good time. And obviously, we're very fortunate on the hill where we had obviously an amazing kind of environment. You have the trees around you, and I grew up, in that environment. So that to me was very familiar. But to be able to kind of yeah, have those opportunities. Like if I think back, like that's one of obviously a really special memory. And obviously so many activities that we had to do. Like it was endless and we have an amazing gym there back then. It was definitely not what it is now, but we had a gym back then. That was a lot of fun too. You had your little escape, obviously to get your workout in and to be able to keep up with activities and obviously all the staff members that are on campus have their dogs and whatnot. So you're always having somebody to play with. But yeah, there's so many memories to be honest with you. It's pretty special and all the plays. I was never able to be a part of a play. I always wanted to, but outside of RNS, obviously I was very busy with the national team and all sorts of things that I was not always local for that spring or early fall play, but um, watching those plays was something really special as well because it's crazy the work that goes into it. I got to work on the backstage from things, but yeah, no, amazing time.
When you think about your transition to Cornell, obviously the staff and many schools, were very interested in you.
Yeah.
And Cornell was the one ultimately that you chose. It was the right fit for you. Can you talk a little bit about what that transition was like for you, leaving kind of the comfort and support of RNS that you had come to experience after your 3 years here, and you make that transition to an Ivy League school, to a Division I hockey program? What was
Mhm.
that transition like? Obviously, there's a ton of change of pace in the hockey world, a change in the size of your classes. You came from a pretty small school, but what was that experience like? And how did you prepare effectively to experience that?
Yeah, my honestly, my biggest advice would be don't be afraid to ask for help or ask, you know, any questions that you may have to help your transition. I think any athlete that come out of high school into university is a challenge, regardless whether you're going to be a student athlete or strictly a student. I think it's a big jump, regardless how you see it. But RNS is really unique, and it's one of those programs that don't get me wrong, there's other programs out there that do a phenomenal job with it, but I'm really happy I went to RNS because the structure that you have honestly becomes a little bit of a guideline or an example of what you should strive to have in college because RNS is so good at you have your night, study hours. But if you don't have homework, you find time within that to still do something productive, right? You can't just be watching a movie on your computer or on your phone, right? There's obviously a good structure with it. So whenever you come into a big program like Cornell or any other, post-secondary programs where you're playing sports, you need your time management skills to be outstanding, right? Because obviously you have a very heavy load of work. Like I did pre-med, right? So, and I had a major and a double minor. So within that, I was very busy with school, but I would still find time to go on the ice in the mornings before class at 8:40. So I'd be on the ice at 6:30 or whatever in the morning. And then so my morning would get chewed up, but then I very much so became a night owl in my study life, but very structured throughout my day nonetheless, right? Like I'd start at 6 a.m. going on the ice and I'd have my classes throughout the day. I'd have 4 or 5 classes, some labs in there. After school, you have practice or you have lift, right? And those two things together maybe take up 3 hours. So right now you're sitting around 7 p.m., then you got to run to meal hall before it closes at 8 to go eat. And then you're back home at 8, 8:30, and then you're trying to figure out what's next for your studies. And then for me, I was a night owl, which worked out really well for me. So I would study anywhere from, 8:30 to 9, all the way to midnight, 1, 2, 3, depending how much I had the next day. But to be honest with you, that to me was the grind. I loved it, right? And RNS very much so makes it so nice on you where it becomes second nature to be a hard worker. I think nothing is given to you at RNS. I think you got to earn it nonetheless, right? Obviously, you're put through the IB program, and that in itself is very challenging. But that was probably the best thing I could have had was to have that structure and to have that IB program. And to me, I was no stranger to challenges because I came to RNS as, English being my second language. So I had been kind of breeded into you got to earn it, you got to work every day to kind of get something done. And that started right from that grade 9 year. And obviously, the athletic side of things was also very challenging. We're not the biggest school. Like we had the Stansteads and we had the Nichols back then, and you were playing those teams, and you knew you were you were going to be in it. It's going to be challenging. So you still had like massive challenges there, and obviously we had our fitness testing and everything to keep up with. So very similar to college. College, obviously, I think the level is just higher just because now you're playing with 18-year-olds to 21-year-olds, right? So that became more challenging in itself, but I think I had a really strong foundation, and RNS did an amazing job with it. I know for me, outside of RNS itself, I had certain fitness standards to hit with national team, things like that. And RNS had all the right people to help me out. You were there to help me out. Aaron Lee was huge, especially when those calls started to come in. It was very easy for me to kind of get him to help me, or even after school, we'd sit down together and I'd have my list of however many schools and he'd help me kind of understand where they were, things like that. So to be honest with you, I probably owe everything to RNS because it's just the structure that was given to me and the work ethic that was instilled into me is everything I needed to succeed at Cornell and beyond.
You talked about Aaron Lee and the advisor program, and it's something that we are really, really proud of here. And we continue to invest in the advisor program and leverage those supports. What kind of advice would you give to students who are maybe new to the school or coming to the school for the first time about that advisor relationship and how to leverage that advisor? What are they there for? How can you talk to them about those things? And you even talked about leveraging them a little bit for your university process. And obviously we have a university counselor as well. But I'm just wondering if you can touch a little bit more on what that advisor relationship was.
I mean, to have an advisor to me was everything. My first year actually at RNS, it was Mr. Gowan, which eventually I think he started working in the administration, I believe, in Collegiate Hall. But it started with him, and then eventually it was Mr. Lee. But I think my first year I was definitely more nervous to talk to my advisor because I was more shy. Obviously, you couldn't speak English as well, so I think I very much so stepped away from utilizing Mr. Gowan as much as I could have. Although I still very much so used him, I think I became a little bit more comfortable talking to my advisor in my grade 11 and 12 years, which is when I had Mr. Lee. And I think the school makes a phenomenal job in assigning also great advisors because obviously I was very bio oriented. So having Mr. Gowan obviously helped me a lot with that. And he obviously had experience with the hockey side of things. And obviously Mr. Lee was the same. He had his experience with hockey. I believe he went to Norwich, if I remember correctly, and he obviously knew how school worked very well in terms of time management. But I don't think RNS, puts it lightly when they say you have advisor time, use it, because I do think it's something that is immensely valuable. I know for me, it made the world of a difference. I leaned on Miss Shirley a lot for my own goals in terms of, getting my strength and conditioning taken care of, making sure that I had, the proper classes. When you come down to selecting HLs or SLs, you want to know what's going to set you up for success. And obviously the recruitment piece was huge because he obviously had been through that. We definitely have university counselors that help with that as well at school. So I think that was huge. But your advisor you can't use them enough. They're really there to help you and help your transition. And I think I wish I utilized my advisor more, because they really are the bridge, between you being uncomfortable and you becoming comfortable. And it's such a small group of advisees in there that, you get to be really comfortable and get to be friends with them very quickly. So the advisory group, to be honest with you, is probably one of the best things I had, to be able to make my time there better. And obviously coming out of RNS a little bit smoother as well and selecting a really good college that worked out for me.
You leave a program that you have, left a profound legacy on here at RNS, and you head out to, an Ivy League university and play Division I hockey. That's a big transition. You're fighting for that starting position. You go through your time at Cornell, and then again, you make that transition into professional. What's your mindset like in those transition periods, and how do you get yourself in the right frame of mind to compete for those positions? Obviously, you said something earlier that nothing's handed to you, everything has to be earned. That's certainly the case in those transitions as well. But what have those moments been like for you, and how have you prepared for them?
Yeah, I mean, the jump from high school to college is definitely a big one. But like I said, I think it very much still comes down to the work ethic that you have, and the expectations that you have for yourself. For me, I had high expectations for myself because I knew I could reach them, because I had been tested before and I had been put in positions before where I knew I could achieve those, whether those were with the provincial program, with the national program, with Team Atlantic, or to be honest with you, with our bigger showcases or our bigger games with RNS. So I knew I could always, find a new level to my game. But I think something that I personally took very seriously was being a student of the game. I think at RNS, obviously, you have to be very studious. You have to be super, super good with, classes in general, and being willing to do the extra work, do the extra attention to details, do the extra, exam questions, prep, those things, right? You have to be able to be willing to do those. But I think in hockey in general, I very much so took the student of the game approach and really became, tedious with the details in my game. So I knew that regardless of what happens, the technical piece of my game would be there, right? And I grew up playing multi-sports, and to this day, I think that's the best thing I could have had from my parents, was playing multiple sports and not just being a hockey athlete. Because I think if you just play hockey, your body becomes very obviously synchronized with just hockey, and becoming, very athletic outside of hockey, or just as a goalie, you need to be extremely athletic and make those kick saves midair, right? So you need to have that athleticism put into you. I think I had that as a kid playing different sports like martial art and swimming and things like that. But I think being a student of the game is what really kind of helped me the most in those transitions, because when you go to Cornell, obviously you go into a program where there's already established goaltending. I was very lucky where I got there and I got to play right off the bat. But again, that wasn't really given to me. I had to earn that. But when I got there, I very much so from the get-go got there with a goaltending coach, Edith Russin, and started doing some goalie work right away, learning the RVH, VH techniques, things like that that were up and new around that time, and getting very comfortable with those. And honestly, studying the game of the other teams we were playing. When we were playing Princeton versus Yale, like there were two different kind of game matchups, and I think being a student of the game really helped me. And obviously those expectations of, to me, I had set expectations of I want to play a game in that first year. And to be honest with you, it bit me in the butt right off the bat, because the first game I was ever put in was against Boston College, and we lost 8-1. So that was my first Cornell experience. So had I gone in there, saying I want to, be the starter right off the bat, I think I would have set up myself for failure, because I think I was trying to be realistic, eventually obviously earn that spot. But again, it was earned, right? From learning how to, face challenges, things like that. But Cornell did the same kind of fitness testing regimen as RNS had us do. So I think right off the bat, I definitely had the fitness required and needed to do that. So that was taken care of. Obviously, hockey-wise was taken care of just from obviously getting a lot of playing experience at RNS as well. Um, and I think outside of that, I was really set for success because my school was taken care of in the sense where I had time management skills that allowed me to spend, extra time or quality time playing hockey and not having to think about, oh, I have this exam coming up or I have this assignment coming up. I knew that they were taken care of. So whenever I would just cross the gate when I jumped onto the ice, all that schoolwork was behind until I exited the ice, right? So that was something really nice that I was able to get myself. And then the transition from college to pro was obviously a big jump, but I think college really sets you up in a place where you have all the tools you could ever imagine, right? Where now there's no more excuses. You either choose to keep playing if that's what you wish to do, or you go work, right? And for me, I just knew I loved playing so much, and I was still with the national team, so I wanted to just obviously see that to the end, and I wanted to be able to pursue that as much as I could. I faced new challenges up to that point because now the body's getting a little bit older, so I faced a little bit more, injuries and surgeries and things like that. So the professional level is obviously an added layer of difficulty in that sense. But to be honest with you, challenges that I'm not afraid of because I think I've just been, set up with challenges from day one. Even though I've had a lot of success, I think a lot of that can be attributed to the structure and kind of the opportunities I was given to kind of learn quickly. I think I was able to face a lot of challenges with success, and I think the pro life is no different. Obviously, the challenges just become much more immense and harder to tackle, but again, you're with such an amazing support staff, and then you have an agent that comes into the picture to help you out, which, to be honest with you, is very similar to the advisor I had in high school, right? Is the same kind of friend that just helps you to guide you and give you advice along the way. So I think there's a lot of different structures that are the same, but just look different. So that transition was no different, still a huge challenge, and obviously an ongoing challenge. I'm just heading onto year 3 of pro here outside of PWHPA, which is another thing, but obviously still pro in itself. So maybe we call it year 6, something like that. I don't want to date myself too much, but yeah.
It's been amazing to kind of follow your journey from the outside. And obviously you've got lots of fans here at RNS, but you did move on to the PWHPA. And then there's the creation of the PWHL, and you get an opportunity to be a part of the Montreal Victoire in kind of that original historic season, really. And now you've had the opportunity to win a Walter Cup as part of the Minnesota Frost team. What has that experience been like to be a part of this historic league? And obviously I've, been a female hockey player for a long time and been a coach for a long time. And now I'm a mom sitting at home with a little girl watching games and watching former players play professionally. So it's incredible to watch from the outside. But what has that experience been like to be on the inside of it and be a professional hockey player and be able to say to your parents, like, I made it. I'm a professional hockey player. Like, what's that been like?
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think I can pull the trigger on saying I've made it yet, because I think that's still, it doesn't feel right to have made it, because to me, I don't know when that will be. And I think that's obviously a challenge that's going to come in itself, but it's amazing to be able to see young girls and see parents be thrilled about the opportunities for their girls. I think it's something that is truly remarkable, and it's so hard to put that into words. It's one of those things where you always aspire to play at the highest level. And to be honest with you, to get that opportunity on top of being a role model to so many is truly something special. And it's nothing short of, something that will continue to inspire me to play as much as I can to inspire young girls. And it's something very special. Like, I know even for social media, ages nowadays, it's very easy to get in touch with pro athletes just with the DM or something like that. So I know for me, my DMs are very frequently filled with young athletes messaging me or parents messaging me. And to be able to see the impact we're having on those grassroots levels is really amazing. I know I just saw a post recently with USA Hockey that the registration of young female athletes into hockey has tremendously increased from, the start of the PWHL to now. So that to me is so rewarding in itself, regardless how my career looks. Because I think, one or not, when you are part of that inaugural process, like for me with the Victoire, it was a big year of emotions. Obviously, you want to play pro and there's emotions within that, but I think more so the emotions of the impact that we get to have on young girls and young boys, to be honest with you. There's a lot of respect now where young boys see NHL and PWHL equally, right? Because they're being taught that they're both equally, professional levels, which is, to be honest with you, the most amazing thing. Um, and yeah, I mean, that's probably the single-handedly like best thing I could have done in my professional career was to have that impact on our young population. But I think one of the other things about professional hockey that is not talked about a lot is obviously you have fans that are there to cheer the game, but I don't think they recognize how much of an impact they actually have on the players because professional life is very difficult, right? You're moving constantly, you're playing at a very high level, you're pushing your body to the max constantly, but nothing beats, being on the ice or being in the stands or even being on the bench, wherever, and you look around and you just see those signs with all sorts of, messages on them, some funny ones, some, very emotional ones, things like that. I think that is probably one of the best things about playing pro is to see the support that the fans actually give us and the drive that they actually give us. There's endless girls in this league that would have retired 2 years ago had there not been this league, and now for this league to be had and to see the support that we get from fans, I think is really pushing a lot of people to, put their after hockey life on pause to be able to continue pursuing this dream because it's amazing. It's you get to come back to your hometowns and there's a lot of respect about the game and it's finally being recognized as it should. And to know that there's a lot of girls that want to be in your seat one day is honestly something very special. And to be able to give back wherever you can is even better. It's an amazing thing.
And you've always been really thoughtful about giving back to your community. You've been thoughtful about giving back to your, small communities here in New Brunswick. And you've always, whenever we've kind of knocked on your door to help us out with something, you're always there. Why is that important to you? Like, why is community such an important part of who you are, and why do you think it's important to give back, given the position that you're in right now?
Because I think as much as we try to make hockey inclusive, it's very exclusive to certain people. It's an expensive sport. I was very fortunate to grow up with being able to play that sport alongside my 5 siblings, and I don't take that lightly. I know that my parents were fortunate enough to do that for us. But not only that, I think having a role model growing up is everything. And for me, I had phenomenal role models, right, growing up, and I was able to attach myself to very elite coaches at a young age at HNB or wherever else. And I think having those role models is everything. So I want to make sure that there's nobody out there that doesn't have that role model, for one. But for two, I think having the opportunity to get coached by female ex-athletes or female coaches is everything. I was very fortunate where I got to get coached by obviously male athletes initially, but eventually very quickly with Hockey New Brunswick being coached by female athletes. And I've seen what impact that could have on a young girl like myself. And so to be able to do that for young girls, and to be honest with you, ever since I started coaching, because I started coaching after I came out of Cornell, because of that, the impact that I can have on young girls is amazing. So that to me is a non-negotiable, something I'm going to do forever. And to be able to give opportunities for girls to be able to play hockey or, have the opportunity to at least try it is something I'm very passionate about. So whether that's, one day having scholarships that I can give to athletes, whether it be at RNS, whether it be wherever, I think is something I definitely want to be able to do. I'm starting to run some hockey camps now, slowly but surely. No big launches yet, but things like that, I want to be able to give some athletes free attendance, things like that, so they get to see that experience, right? Because it's really something special. And as much as I say that I had to earn everything, I think a lot was given to me, right? Obviously, I was put into a family that was very fortunate to be able to have those experiences. And obviously, I was able to get recruited by RNS and be a part of an amazing group of people and staff there. And that was something that was definitely given to me in a way. So if I can do the same and have an impact on even one person, that to me is everything.
What do the next few months look like for you? You're in the off season. What's your training look like? What do your days look like? How are you going to recharge mentally, physically? Obviously, you mentioned some bumps and bruises that take a little bit longer to heal, but what does this next period look like for you, given kind of the kind of environment of the PWHL contracts being signed? What's, kind of the summer going to look like for you?
It's a very long summer for the PWHL. We don't start till about mid-November is when we report to our markets for training camp. So it's about 5.5, 6 months almost, right? Depending when you ended your season. So for me, I take rest and recovery very seriously. Obviously, in college or high school, your summer months are shorter. You might have 2 months. I was always one to take time off to recover, but I think now I kid you not, I'm taking a month off completely from the ice and the gym. And then after a month, so starting probably July 1st, I'm going to head back to the gym. I'm still being very active, though I say that with a grain of salt because I'm in Calgary and there's mountains. So I'm still hiking. I'm still obviously itching to go back to the gym. And if I do go back to the gym, then I'm doing some sort of yoga or some sort of something. I'm not being a couch potato by any means, but I'm staying away from the weight room in terms of weights and allowing my body to recover because we play in a very extreme sport. And, I need to take time off now, so I don't need it midway through my summer training, or, at times that wouldn't be so convenient. And then I'll probably start going back on the ice mid to end July, right? Because then I'd have that few weeks left of July and then August, September, October before I go back out to train. So gradually come back into it with maybe one session a week, and then bringing it up eventually to 3, 4 a week before training camp. So outside of that, I'm in Calgary. That's my little training area for the time being. I kind of grew a little bit of um, a strong foundation here between on ice training, off ice training, and a lot of coaching opportunities. So I'm able to kind of keep myself busy. I'm definitely a busybody in that sense. And then I'm able to obviously do things I love, like hiking and doing things that keep me mentally very much so in a good place. Because obviously playing pro has a lot of challenges in itself. And I think nowadays lifestyles very much so need a lot of mental health awareness in terms of taking rest and taking time for yourself. And for me, having the opportunity to kind of take some rest now and take a step back and rest and recover not only my physical body but my mental abilities as well, I think is really important because if you have a game seven mentality and you're kind of that high drive person year round, you're going to burn out. And I think we're all trying to do our best here, but I think we're all the same in the sense of everybody needs rest and the ability to kind of take a step back and allow yourself to recover and allow yourself days off. And that is no different for the pro lifestyle. You need that. So I'm definitely taking that seriously. And like I said, you probably won't find me in a gym for another 13 days, give or take.
You are an athlete who has, or person who has achieved a lot already in your life. You have had many opportunities. You've represented your country, you've represented your province, you've represented your family incredibly well. You've played professionally. What continues to motivate you? Like, how do you, when you wake up in the morning, what is it that continues to encourage you or continues to motivate you to pursue your goals? And what are those goals? Like, what are the goals that you have for yourself for the next 5-10 years, or, both in hockey and maybe beyond hockey as well? But I'm just curious because, a lot of our students are in the kind of trenches right now, and they can only see their next goal, or they can only see kind of the next rung on the ladder that they're reaching for. And they don't often take enough time to celebrate when they accomplish those goals. They just kind of continue on to the next. But you've now, looking back, had an opportunity to accomplish a lot of the goals that you set out for yourself at a young age. So I'm curious, now that you're kind of nearing the other side of that ladder, what continues to drive you every day? And how do you think about the next few years of your life?
I try to not think about the next few years of my life. And I say that in a sense of I love to live in the moment. And to be honest with you, the fun that I have every time I step into the rink truly drives my want to keep doing it. I think the moment where hockey's not fun anymore is where I'll start to consider wrapping things up. But I've been very lucky where I haven't found that yet, and nothing but fun. And to be honest with you, another layer of things that drive me is the young generation that is cheering you on, right? I get messages all the time cheering you from Nevada, cheering you from Florida, and things like that. Or I think that's huge. And obviously, I've gotten to get a pretty good following on socials, and so seeing people comment on pictures and things like that is obviously a drive in itself. Of they want to see you succeed as much as you want, which is huge. And there's also the reality, though, of I want to have a family one day. And pro women's hockey is very much so unique, where at one point you'll have to decide between your career and having a family. And for me, I've made a decision with my partner that we're gonna, when we're gonna be wanting to have a family, that's when hockey for me will be, a thing of the past, just because goaltending is obviously, like I said, very challenging. And so having a kid and trying to keep up with that is not something that I want to do, because for me, I'm very big on when I do things, I do them 100%. So when I'm going to be a mom one day, I want to be a mom 100%, right? So that's going to be my big thing. And I think once I get to that, I get to that. But hopefully, if I had to put a number to it, I'd love to play till I'm 33, 34. I'm turning 28 in 2 days actually. So hopefully I get to play another 5 years, right? That'd be huge for me, because eventually family will be huge. Like I said, I come from a big family, so for me, I'd love to have multiple little kids running around, but we'll see once we get there. And then beyond that, I think medicine has always been a huge thing for me. So who knows how it's going to look like. To be honest with you, I haven't put much thought into it, because like I said, I do things 100%, and hockey for me has been 100%. So doing everything I can to succeed there now, so that whenever I do decide to go back to school or whatever, I'm going to be very happy with where I've left things off, because you can always go back to school, but you can't go back to playing pro sports, right?
What advice would you give to current RNS students, especially young athletes, student athletes, who are dreaming of following in your footsteps?
Biggest advice is love what you do. I know there's days that are harder than others. I've been there. I've had those dark days where I kind of question it all, or I just honestly can't stop a beach ball, or things aren't going my way, or I'm running on 2 hours of sleep or no sleep at all, right? So we all go through those, and I think there's something to be said about understanding that you're not the only one that goes through those tougher times. But what I will say is, if you find ways to have fun, and if you find things to do to just loosen you up, and just, have jokes in the dressing room, or be goofy, be yourself, don't be afraid to kind of be your own little quirky self, I think goes a long way, because I wasn't shy from, being my own unique person, and I definitely had my quirky ways. And to be honest with you, it's probably what made me have the most fun, because I could truly be myself. And I had such a welcoming environment at RNS, and I think every athlete can share that, feeling. And so being able to have fun and truly enjoy going to the rink and finding that joy, I think is what really is going to be the difference maker. It has been for me from day one, when I first started to strap the pads on that one summer in whatever year, to now still playing pro. I think fun is what really kind of, no matter what, will make it so that you want to keep playing and want to keep pushing yourself to get better too.
I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's been so nice to reconnect. It's been so incredible to follow your journey. I know as a community, we certainly, try to celebrate any accomplishments of our alumni, and we certainly are following closely, and we look forward to continuing to cheer you on. The last question I want to ask you is something we're asking every guest who's on this season. And
Okay.
we all kind of think that RNS is this incredible place to live and teach and learn. And obviously lots of us are raising our families here. But I'm curious, for somebody who's been gone for 10 years, what would you say is the secret ingredient or the special sauce that makes RNS unique and exceptional?
I would say RNS is very amazing in creating a second family environment. And I say that from a standpoint of your classmates, your teammates, if you're a multi sport, or if you're a student athlete, and also your staff that surrounds you, whether that's for the sport you play, whether that's for your art classes, whether that's for anything. I think you very much will have a second family. Even the dining room staff. I remember there was a staff member there that would always have, cookies nice and warm for us. And I know me and my sisters, when we were there, it was always something exciting that we were looking forward to. And when we came back actually to RNS a couple of years ago, that staff member was still there, and he handed us cookies that were nice and warm. So I think you very much so create a second family there, right between your house parents and everything else. I think you're very much so set up for success to have a family away from home.
I love that. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thanks again to Marlène for taking some time during the off-season to join us on the show. This week's student spotlight is Simo Ayubi. an RNS student entering grade 10. Here is his take on part of the third movement of Beethoven's Sonata No. 25 in G major. Enjoy this piece, and until next time, remember to keep working hard, be kind, and look after one another.